summer we got a couple of new attendees, so we'll start over. We've got Flork of Cows and Tim Lim for the web comics panel. There we go. First, though, I gotta ask, Flork, I gotta ask you, have you been to Bucky's?
Yeah.
Did you like it?
I loved it.
Woo! So how long have you guys been artists?
About 7 years.
You've been an artist for 7 years, or?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Oh.
I mean, I've been drawing like my whole life since I was a kid, but yeah, about maybe professionally, same as like 7 years.
What got y'all into it?
I just like making memes on the internet. Got it. So,
I draw when I'm bored because I was never good at anything else.
I noticed we have a couple of artists in here. Couple? Yeah? Did you always consider yourself an artist?
I still don't.
Technically, I'm not even a professional artist because it's not like my vocation. My vocation is I'm a ear doctor. I test people's hearing and occasionally sometimes their balance too, and I teach. So this whole artist thing is kind of a side gig for me. So when people are like, "Your art sucks," I'm like, "Well, I never went to art school, so yeah, sure it does, but I'm having fun doing it."
I was never expected that.
It happens a lot, especially on
I
Twitter.
just found that out last year. That you really do not.
So does anyone out there, do y'all have any questions that y'all wanted to ask? Anything? Yeah, what you got?
Now, whenever you're doodling, like just absent-mindedly, what's the one thing you doodle the most often?
Before I answer that, I'll let Flork answer that question. Unless that was directed specifically to me.
No, it's
fine.
both.
Okay.
Like body horror?
Yeah. I like animals, but they have to be a specific type. And by type, I mean they have to be like round and cute. If you ask me to draw a horror or something, like no, and I'll just like flip the table over because I don't draw that stuff.
Cool.
Ready to go for here?
Yeah. At what point did both of y'all realize that your art kind of kind of like made an impact on like you realized you started to gain a crowd, like people like following.
So my backstory is I've always liked to draw, and in high school I used to make t-shirt designs for prom and homecoming and stuff like that. And then later on in life, my first gig getting paid to do it was doing merchandising art. And the way that happened was I was at a BotCon and someone noticed me and what I was doing. And they said, you should probably do this officially. So if you'd like to work for this t-shirt company that has a lot of licenses, you can do it. And so that's actually how I got my start in terms of getting like a paid gig going. But as far as like wanting to do my own thing, that didn't happen until way later. I always tell this story about how one time I worked for a merchandising company where we had the licenses to everything. So I've worked on Valve products for Steam. I worked for like Team Fortress, Borderlands, Marvel, Lucasfilm, Hasbro, Nickelodeon, you name it. I mean, I did something that was in that merchandising realm. And I was telling a friend of mine, and I said, if you could work on any comic, what would you work on? And he's significantly older than me. And he said, I would never work on any of those. And I said, really? Like, if you could work on Spider-Man, you wouldn't do it? He said, nope. Wolverine? Nope. Batman? Mm-mm. So what would you do? He said, I'd work independent. And I said, that's the dumbest answer I've ever heard. Like, why would you do that? And he basically was like, hey, listen here, kid, one day you'll know what I'm talking about. And here I am, and I would give the same answer because at some point we just crossed that threshold where it was more fun working on our own thing than on someone else's. That's just what it boils down to. And after we launched a series of books, starting with Black Ops and then now Kamen America, it's like we just don't turn back. And we've gotten a few pretty good offers. The only thing I do that's still kind of licensing based is I will do occasionally one pinup for Udon, and so it's for like Street Fighter, Darkstalkers. And other than that, typically once a year I work on Marvel trading cards. But other than that, we don't really do much license work. So, I mean, it's different for everyone, but as far as for me, there were definitely those 2 points that clicked. One was just kind of I fell into an accident, and the second one was that dawn and realization of, you know what, it's actually fun, it's actually more fun to work on your own thing than to be told by someone else, like, what to do.
Yeah, because all that the character of the story is already kind of pre-built, so you kind of have to go off of that, kind of limits your creativity at that point.
Yeah, and not just that, but I know, like, for example, right now, if you talk to any comic book reader, there's a lot of arguing as to the direction the storylines are going. And I thought about this the other day. It's like the telephone game when we were kids. For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, your teacher would tell, like, the first kid in class, like, something like, my goat's name is Frank. And then they're supposed to turn around and whisper to the next kid, my goat's name is Frank. In the telephone game, by the time it makes it to the last person, they'll say, like, cheese doesn't stank. And because what happens is something gets lost. But in modern comics like Marvel and DC, it's essentially a long telephone game where someone has a really good idea and they're like, all right, my writing career is done, we're going to hand it to the new writer. Well, the new writer is under no obligation to pick up where the other writer left off. So it is like this jumbled mess. And I thought to myself, like, what a nightmare that would be if I was having to kind of either draw or pick up something where I either have to clean up after someone else or I would have to, like, fill in some pretty big shoes. And so obviously wisdom comes with time, and over time I've realized, like, it's a lot more freeing when you're not restrained by anything like that.
Yeah.
Sorry, I got a question for Flork, Mr. Bodyhorror. I want to know where this sock puppet came from, or that classic design that you always draw on everything. Where did that come from?
Yeah, I was just really bored in college. I just got stress doodled it, and that's it.
That's all right.
That's it. Yeah.
It seems like a lot of our answers come from boredom.
Yeah.
Great. Agree.
Yes, this is a more technical question. Where would you propose, like, beginner artists to post their work on? Like, a couple of platforms are dying right now. So where would you suggest?
I know he and I are going to have probably different answers, but I would say Instagram, to be honest. And the reason why is Instagram is an image-based platform, and I'm on there, and there's, like, no drama or anything because people are mostly there to either look at animals or fitness people or art. I mean, that's really what it boils down to. And so, actually, my Instagram following, it took a long time to get rolling, but we're at the point now where I think I have like 33,000 subscribers. But I mean, that was over 5 years, but it was just a gradual working at it. Before that, I used to post on DeviantArt. I think that platform has pretty much died. Like, no one really uses it anymore. But it didn't hurt. I used to host all of my images up there just up until recently.
Where do you host your stuff? Like, just is this just kind of general question?
I'm still working on the background stuff.
Yeah.
I'm trying. I used to do it on DeviantArt, as you said, and when that kind of died, I kind of fizzled out either.
My advice would be stay wherever you are, be on as many platforms as you can handle mentally, but also make your own website to host it on, because you can't trust a single site. So make your own site. And it's not that expensive to make it. So, yeah.
Caroline?
Can you move the postgrad ways that's not looking for?
He doesn't want to be doxxed, so that's why we have the vote. No, just kidding.
Thank you. And I was talking to you.
Well, no one wants to see me anyway.
I think there was a hand in the back somewhere, I thought. Maybe not? No.
Yes?
Let him go.
Okay, all right.
So I was going to the question for Flork. So a lot of your, I guess a lot of your comics are a little more short form. Is there anything longer that you wanted to work on or have been working on?
Not really.
Yeah.
So going back to the social media sites, have you guys find it a little bit more difficult to be more free reign given the harsher restrictions that's going on? Because I know with Flork, I tend to follow you on Facebook more so.
Do you feel that the platforms some of them are restricting in terms of the stuff that you want to put out there?
Yes. It's hard because, like, Facebook, for example, goes by like algorithm. So I'll have comics removed from like 2019. It's ridiculous. But it's kind of like what comes with it, because you don't own these platforms, so you got to follow their rules to an extent. That's why making your own webpage is a pretty good idea for hosting whatever you want without fear of like Facebook censoring it or something like that. If that answered your
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm just wondering if you had any specific things.
Yeah.
And going back to what you said about switching from, licensed work to independent, once you made that decision, what was the step from there? How did you get out there? Or were you riding off the success you already had from doing the licensed stuff?
Yeah, so the way that happened was we had done a lot of licensed work, and Antarctic Press, they're actually here in Hall C. They're one of the longest lived independent publishers in America. And it's really interesting because they're from Texas, so that's a Texas pride type of thing. And we had friends with them, and they said, it was very flattering. They said, your art's really good. Have you ever thought about making a comic? And I was like, no, I'd never want to make a comic. And I always remember that they said, if you ever make a comic, we'll publish it. Like, don't even worry, like your art's really good, but we'd like you to take a chance. And so the time came, and we actually created like short parody comics, and so we published through them, and it took off. Like we went into, I think to this day, we're actually on 9 printings, which is pretty great for like a first time book. And so they were basically like, well, what else do you have? And so my writer and I, we were like, he goes, I thought you never wanted to work on comics. I said, I didn't, but now I kind of have a bug because it felt good, like yeah, the reception was good. And so from then we worked on Black Ops, and then now Kamen America, and then it's like I just can't think of anything else because now that that train has gotten started, it just keeps on rolling. For those of you who don't know, like Kamen America has been the flagship character for Bell County Comic Con in the last 3 years. And if you had told me 5 years ago, like one of these days your character is going to be like on billboards and on advertisements and all the merchandise for Bell County Comic Con, I would have been like, you're crazy. Like I can't imagine that happening. So, and I've noticed this more and more. A lot of artists, especially artist friends of ours who work for Marvel and DC, they're like, how do I break away and do independent? And I thought, that's so wild because you're working on Spider-Man. And they're like, yeah, but I don't like it. Like, how do I break out and do my own thing? And so it's like, well, we do feel really blessed that we're able to work on our own, create our own thing, and not have to be beholden to a property.
You guys ever feel discouraged?
Discouraged? You ever feel discouraged?
Maybe this isn't for me.
Not really. I mean, there's times where I get like burnt out or like I don't want to do this, but I end up just kind of doing it anyway. So, what about you?
I can never tell when you're being serious and when you're not. There was a funny exchange between him and I, the convention runner. He was like, hey, can you ask the Flork, like we need a favor if you can do this? And so I go, hey, if you don't mind, like I know we got a few weeks left, but can you do this? And he goes, I don't know, that's like really time consuming. And I was like, but can you? And he's like, okay, I'll work on it. And like 10 minutes later, you gave it to me. I was like, 10 minutes? That's time consuming. My gosh. I wish I could have a $1 million little Flork idea. That's like brilliant, lightning in the bottle. I don't get discouraged. No, not really. I think there is some stress because when you create your own property, you're going to have criticism. Some people might not like your book and they might not like you. And so you have to get used to people being like, you suck! And just think to yourself, like, that's one guy. And you'll have a bunch of people who can outweigh that number based on people who like your stuff. And so just having that disposition and knowing that that's the perception is really what keeps you going. My philosophy is the work speaks for itself. And so as long as I just keep on working, you can ignore a lot of the noise and filter it out.
With Flork, it wasn't overnight.
Sorry?
It wasn't overnight with Flork.
No.
How long did that take?
It started to get really popular kind of at the end of 2017, mid 2018. It kind of started to increase slowly. And it's still kind of increasing slowly. It's like a very slight thing. What do you call it? Graph going up? Yeah.
Increase?
Yeah, increase. There you go.
Yeah.
So I was gonna ask, so how do you all deal with burnout? So, like work.
How do you deal with burnout?
Yeah, like what do you do? Like, do you have something you do in your free time to help deal with it?
The thing that I tell people most about burnout is to just keep working anyway. Like even if it's really, really bad, like it's the worst comic ever, you gotta make it anyway. And then like eventually it won't be bad.
And are you a workaholic? Would you consider yourself?
Yeah.
We are. Both of us are workaholics. We like what we do, and so I was doing a panel yesterday where we were talking about time management. And I said, I get about 4 hours of sleep a night, which I'm pretty sure is not healthy, but I can't help it because I like working. Like I like what I do, and so I don't get burned out because I feel like I'm on a train with no brakes. It's just going and going and going and going. So I keep myself busy.
Especially for like my thing, I think between 4 and 8 comics a week, it's a lot of content. So.
And then you have to ask yourself, like, what burns you out? Some artists, and this is what I find out, a lot of artists get burned out because it's either they don't like what they're doing or they feel like their work is not that good, and so they feel kind of despondent where they're like, I don't even want to try anymore. Honestly, I always tell artists that it's the best and worst advice you can take, which is look at the work that you've done, put it aside, and then 1 week later come back to it and look. And then you'll say to yourself, my gosh, I thought I was Picasso, and it really is not good, and I could do better. That's good advice, but it's also bad because then you'll always be upset and you're always going to try and think that you're not going to achieve it. But I'm pretty sure Flork and I will tell you that you'll never achieve perfection. You just have to keep on going. And when people say like, wow, your eyeball looks weird on that, you just say, yeah, it looked really weird, but I can't stop. I mean, hopefully my next eyeball looks better than that one.
Yeah.
Speaking of perfection, if you could do any comic of any sort, no, like unrealistic,
Okay.
like anything, like what would you do?
I'll let you do that.
Like if I were to do a
Let's see.
franchise of
Yeah,
some
yeah.
sort?
A franchise, anything, like if
I
you
think I'd try my hand at Spider-Man to some degree.
right, so
Yeah.
like it doesn't matter how long it takes to draw, it doesn't matter like skill level. Like if you could just do it like that, what like indie comics, like what would you do? Do you have any like?
If it wasn't time consuming.
Spider-Man?
Yeah.
Would it be like Spider Flork or Flork Spider?
It would just be Spider-Man.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think a better question would be, he's been getting a lot of popularity recently, a lot of team-ups and endorsements. Is there one that you would team up with, like a franchise that's not necessarily comic related?
Oh, okay. Spider-Man.
I've already been blessed because I teamed up with him, and I've always been like, I love his art, so we've teamed up, what, 3 times already at least?
Something like that.
Yeah, and yeah, that's really what it is. I think at one point in time I would have said Spider-Man, but believe it or not, I like Flork's stuff better, so I've already kind of achieved it.
Yeah. Well,
Sorry, I've been asking a lot of questions. Last one. When y'all were, developing your style kind of stuff, what kind of webcomics did you like? What did you read? Other
read this
webcomics
stuff.
before?
I like I have a whole list of webcomics I like. I like Cyanide and Happiness. I like Litterbox comics. I like Extra Fabulous comics. I like Toothy BJ comic. He's pretty funny.
So more like Gag-A-Day than any of the actual plot-based ones?
No.
Fair enough.
Okay.
Yeah, same thing as far as webcomics is concerned. It's funny because the one that I like the Panty Bear strips, and it's funny because now the 2 guys who worked on it are actually like with our publishing group, and so they're actually with us down in the hall. So it's kind of surreal because we looked at them for a lot of their influence in terms of their storytelling and stuff, and obviously Flork over here too.
Yeah, in the back of the purple here.
Mainly more from Flork. Your comics are like really popular on the internet, whatever. How do you feel about people voicing your comics a lot? Like can't see where comes to mind, but also just generally on different platforms.
I love when people dub my comics. That was the question, right? If they dub my comics?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Voice actors.
I like it a lot. I think it's really cool, and I also think it gives voice actors kind of a thing to practice with. And I think it's a lot of fun. So I don't really I'm not against it at all. I like it. I like seeing the videos of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is also from Flork. Who's your favorite Spider-Man?
Who's your favorite Spider-Man? If you know in the multiverse, there's a
Yeah. I mean, I don't know, being Spider-Man, I kind of really like. So.
Yes.
Do you think that using multimedia in webcomics, for example, the infamous Homestar using animation, using games listening to part of stories?
So like using different mediums with your comic, like video and animation. Yeah.
Just comic panels that don't move and everything.
Yeah, I tried doing that for a little while. I also tried to integrate like videos and audio and point to click feeds for a little while. I kind of integrated a lot of things like that. I didn't really like it. I just like the static images. That's my preference. But what about you?
Kind of in the same boat. I mean, we've experimented with, for example, a lot of people have tried to pitch motion comics to us, but we've seen like from other people who have done it, like bigger companies, it just doesn't seem to have the same appeal. And I don't know if it's because the demographic has changed. Like for example, like if you look at Marvel and DC, they're not really getting a lot of younger readers. It's like their readers have aged with the comic, and so your average reader of Spider-Man is gonna be like 30 and above. Whereas when I was a kid, like basically if you were 10 and above, you read Spider-Man. So I don't know if it's one of those okay boomer moments where you do like a motion comic with Spider-Man and people who are 30 and over like pass, like I don't want to watch that because I'd rather read it instead. So I'm not opposed to multimedia. We've tried it. All of our Kickstarter campaigns have animated trailers with music attached to them, and the reception's been good, but we haven't really studied to see if it's actually sold more books. We assume it has, simply because we've succeeded at it, but we've done no real study to show if the likelihood of people who buys our books increases because we use that as a medium.
And I think we had a question back there. Yeah.
Just want to say your taste in Spider-Man suck.
Yeah, well,
What?
your taste in Spider-Man sucks.
Thank you.
Yes, on the tie.
You said you doodled Flork in a class in college. Which class?
Which class did you doodle for?
I failed like all my college classes. Pretty
Which
much all
one
of them.
created Flork?
It was art history.
Art history, anthropology, math, all of them. You name it.
Yes, think back there.
You seem kind of laid back, so I'm curious. What was your major in college?
What was your major in college?
Which one?
Flork.
My major was psychology. That's why I got a degree.
Mine was too.
Oh yeah?
Yeah,
what's your-
bros.
Then I ended up getting my bachelor's in online media management after that. So I kind of have a mixture of both.
That's because y'all both majored.
Psychology.
Wow.
I just learned that just now.
Does anybody else in here major in psychology? Okay. I was curious. In the purple hair, you had a question.
When you guys started drawing and becoming serious about your art, is your style now what you imagined it would be like when you first were getting serious about art?
About, it's like kind of frog in a boiling water where it slowly changes over time. So if you look at my earliest kind of comics, they're kind of more thin, a little more like lines are thinner, you know, and then they gain weight over time, you know, so. I don't know, I don't know, maybe, something like that.
Definitely not. I draw in an anime style, and when I first started, especially in 10 years of merchandising, I hardly ever drew in an anime style, so it's radically different than where it started.
What do you think led to changing that?
Part of it was I did not like a lot of American comics, and I was getting I was just like, I need a new form of entertainment because this is just not cutting it for me. And someone had said, you need to read manga and watch anime. That's where the good stuff is. And I was like, nah, I tried doing that in high school, and it just didn't work out. And you just have to trust me on it. Like, it's really good nowadays. So I did, and I loved it. And so I dipped into it. The first anime I watched was One Punch Man, and then after that it was like Kill la Kill, Little Witch Academia. I pretty much binge watched all of Trigger, like anything that they do, and I just couldn't stop. I was like, I need to just watch as much anime and read as much manga as I can. And then so when we launched Kamen America, my friend, he actually was, he studied like Japanese culture, and so he could actually read and write Japanese. And so he was like, well, I've always wanted to do a tokusatsu style comic, and so this kind of fit a niche for him.